Yo, what's going on? Welcome into the show. This is Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. Thank you so much for clicking on today's video. There are so many talented content creators out there who talk about the Eagles, so anytime you decide to hang out here with me, I really do appreciate that. We're going to open up the floor, take some questions from our real ones and our loyal subscribers, and I hope everybody out there is having a phenomenal weekend. Speaking of the weekend, Sunday, it's going down. Eagles on the road to take on the Dallas Cowboys. We do watch parties for every single Eagles game, and oftentimes we have about 100,000 plus people join us. So be a part of the largest Eagles channel here on YouTube, which covers this team every single day, and the biggest, baddest, most entertaining, most insightful watch parties, and hit that sub button. Jay Sherrod gets us started with the $10 super chat. Thank you so much for your donation. I'm bummed that we didn't get a pass rusher or a receiver before the trade deadline. You think about where Philadelphia is at. Coming out of that Buccaneers game, you're thinking, this Eagles defense looks a lot like the defense from 2023. They couldn't tackle. They were giving up explosive plays. They were playing soft coverage. They were playing soft in general. They couldn't get off the field on third downs in the red zone. They were so bad situationally in all facets at all three levels. But what has now happened in the 4 games since the bye? Vic Fangio used the bye to his advantage to utilize scheme changes, personnel changes. He's put players in a position to succeed. He's dialed up some pressures from time to time. He has not historically been a defensive coordinator that calls a lot of blitzes. And the Eagles defense during this 4-game stretch has played some really good ball. He said himself, I like where our defense is. I like the players on this team. I don't think we need to make a move. And when he has the track record and the resume that he does, and he says that to Howie Roseman, I don't think that Howie Roseman wants to clash with what the Eagles have going on. And so I'll trust Vic Fangio, who has been able to bring the best out of Nolan Smith, Jalen Carter, Moro Ajomo, Thomas Booker, Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, having a much better year this year as compared to last year. Brandon Graham has played well. How about the linebacking play? Nakobe Dean, Zach Bond. How about Christian Parker, the defensive backs coach who Fangio brought in from the Denver days, who has been able to have Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean step in and cook. Reed Blankenship, C.J. Gardner-Johnson. They've gotten better as the season has progressed at that safety position. Receiver, Howie Roseman traded a third for Jahan Dotson. It's time for Jalen Hurts to target him. It's time for Kellen Moore to involve him more. The guy has plenty of talent. And in speaking of Jahan Dotson, that serves as a good segue to this $50 super chat from Dennis Designs. Dotson had a great catch. I'm hoping that Jalen Hurts throws his way a little bit more, especially if A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith are out. A little bit banged up this week. A.J. with the knee, Devontae Smith with the hamstring. I love Isaiah Rodgers at corner. I think he's our replacement for Slay. He's faster. He's ready to bloom. In the spring and in the summer, Isaiah Rodgers was getting first-team reps. The only reason he's not playing that much is because Quinyon Mitchell has been playing like a Pro Bowl, all-pro type of corner. And the Eagles are so deep at that cornerback spot. So he's been hidden on that depth chart in what is a crowded cornerback room. Think about this. Keely Ringo and Eli Ricks, I think, can play in this league. We've barely seen them at that cornerback spot. Should Rodgers play instead of Darius Slay? It is a little bit interesting. I do think that Darius Slay gets the short end of the stick from Eagles fans. This year, prior to missing that game against Jacksonville, he's played some pretty solid football. He really has. But Isaiah Rodgers, he's a really good player in this league. I like his speed. The play that he made against Cincinnati, one-on-one with Jamar Chase, where he reads his eyes, going down the sideline, then turns around, tips that ball up for C.J. Gardner-Johnson, a big play in that game, an elite play. And I thought he played pretty well against Jacksonville too. So with Rodgers, I like him just like you do. For Dotson, 7 catches this year. He is under team control the next couple of years. I think it just comes down to Philadelphia utilizing wide receiver 3 more because they really haven't done that over the last few years. Quez Watkins couldn't do anything. Olamide Zaccheaus, Julio Jones, now Jahan Dotson. Been a little bit of a pattern there. Jason Gates, $5 super chat. Don't overlook Dallas or we can lose. That's the last thing that we need before we play Washington. F Dallas, go Birds. 2 games coming up this year against Washington. Washington 7-2 atop the NFC East. They are a legitimate football team. And the Cowboys, they might be 3-5. They've lost 3 games in a row badly to Detroit before the bye, San Francisco out of the bye, last week against Atlanta. Those are all playoff level teams. Dallas has not belonged on the same field with them. The Eagles have won 4 games in a row. They're one of the hottest teams in football. Dallas doesn't belong on the same field as Philadelphia. But this is a rivalry game. And you can't expect to go into AT&T Stadium where you've struggled a little bit and win that game just because Dak Prescott isn't playing. While Dallas doesn't have a ton of talent across the board, not a lot of depth, they still have CeeDee Lamb, still have Micah Parsons. Now, the offensive line isn't great. They've struggled to run it. And Philadelphia is better from their coaching staff, offense, defense, as compared to Dallas. I said it before the year. I think they're going to revert. I think they're going to take a big step back. They have, but again, weird and wonky things happen during divisional play. Elijah Stovall, during our live show, my man sent in a $100 super chat. What a legend. He sends this one in way too early, but what is our biggest need in the draft? That is a good question. If you plan on moving on from Dallas Goedert at some point, do you look at tight end? Do you look at linebacker if you let Zach Bond walk? I want to see some continuity at linebacker. But Nakobe Dean next year will also be entering the final year of his contract. You drafted a backup running back in Will Shipley. Do you let Gainwell walk and bring in another one? You're pretty good at wide receiver, and you just drafted Johnny Wilson and Anaya Smith. Do you start to look at some offensive line depth? Lane Johnson getting a little bit older. What happens at right guard? Mekhi Becton will be a free agent. Does he cash in somewhere else? Do you put in Tyler Steen there, who you took in the 3rd round 2 drafts ago? I like Cam Jurgens. I like Landon Dickerson, Jordan Mailata. He's under contract for a few years. You're good at corner. Do you try to get another young corner opposite of Quinyon Mitchell, and then you keep Cooper DeJean in the slot? I like him in the slot. I've always liked him in the slot because of his versatility. So those are some thoughts that come to mind. Jack in the Box Herring. What about Andrew Booth Jr.? Let's take a look at Andrew Booth Jr. So currently a free agent, played his college football at Clemson. Chip, what's been the deal with Andrew Booth? This is a player who's drafted by the Minnesota Vikings in the 2nd round, 42nd overall, only in 2022. He's only with Minnesota 2 years, doesn't last his rookie contract. With the Cowboys in 2024, now he's a free agent.
Yeah. Look,
Chip went to Clemson, by the way.
Oh, yeah, you can see it, baby.
Yep.
Go Tigers.
There you go.
Look, he had a lot of talent at Clemson. Very athletic. He was always a very good man-to-man corner, as Clemson ran a lot of. And look, when I went there, he was a very good player. But coming into the league with the Vikings, was injured a lot.
Yep.
And just never quite lived up, I think, to the potential that he had. You know, one of those guys who sure had all the skills and all the athletic traits, but just never really wrapped his head around playing the position. And, you know, corner is a very hard position to play, but just not fundamentally sound enough, not sticky enough in coverage, not smart enough in zone. So, although he was, you know, pretty decently high draft pick and had some pedigree, just, I think at this point, he's still young, so, you know, if you just sign him for nothing, you know, sure. But I wouldn't count on him really turning his career around at this point. He's had some chances now for multiple different teams, just not really able to beat anybody out in the depth charts. So unfortunate for him, but me personally, I don't think a real option for this Eagles team. You have enough depth at corner. He wouldn't really be able to make much of an impact on this team.
How about Chip? Always bringing the heat, always bringing the insight. By the way, him and I pretty much co-host a 76ers channel, 76ers Now. So if you're a Sixers fan, check that channel out on YouTube. And what did I say a little bit earlier about the cornerback spot, right? Like, they're so deep there that Keely Ringo and Eli Ricks aren't even getting a run. We want to see more from Isaiah Rodgers. He can barely see the field. because the Eagles are so good at corner. So Andrew Booth, I just don't think has a chance on this football team, nor do the Eagles have a need for him. Dennis Designs, was Jordan Davis benched? Thought I saw him in a few snaps, but not that much. So he played against Jacksonville. Let's see. Under 30 snaps, 39% for the game. At his size, that's not really that surprising, but his playing time has gone down a little bit because the Eagles have mixed in more Milton Williams and Moro Ajomo, who, to their credit, have really developed. Maybe just not a good pick for Philadelphia in the first round when they could have had a player like Kyle Hamilton, who's one of the top safeties in the NFL. They move up for Jordan Davis. It's easy to fall in love with 6'6", 340, sub-5 40-yard dash. But he's kind of a big player who doesn't play that way. And my big concern for him coming out of Georgia, I said it on draft night right here on this channel, is he a 3-down player or is he a 2-down player? I don't think he's a 3-down player. Xavier Whitcraft, last question here. Do you think the Eagles can beat the Lions? The Lions are really good. They do a lot of creative things offensively. It would be a really good matchup between Ben Johnson, best OC and play caller in the game, and Vic Fangio, a veteran DC. The Lions do such a good job running it, throwing it, and then they set up these creative trick plays that really catch the defense off guard. So they're very difficult to defend. They will force you to defend all blades of grass. Jared Goff is playing at an MVP caliber level. The defense is pretty good. I do think with Philadelphia's offense, you establish the run against that team, and you keep that offense off the field, and you play ball control, and you beat them down throughout the course of a game, that's the winning formula. I also don't really trust Jared Goff in a big spot, because in big spots, he's really struggled. Here's what's key. If it comes down to the Lions being at home in the playoffs, that team is very difficult to beat in Detroit. If Goff has to go on the road in Philadelphia in January and win a game in inclement weather, that's where I like the Eagles' chances. But the Lions right now are a 7-win team, and they've been cooking, and they might get the number 1 seed in the NFC. That's where home field advantage really matters. And you think about Philadelphia in their Super Bowl appearances in my lifetime. Back in 2004, they hosted the NFC Championship game against the Falcons. In 2017, they hosted the NFC Championship game against Minnesota. In 2022, they hosted the NFC Championship game against the San Francisco 49ers. Hit that subscribe button. Be sure to join the party, join the movement here on Eagles Now. Eagles coverage on the regular every single day.